Hello everybody, welcome back to the stream. If you are just joining us, I am Warren Juggle God Hammond, LaFon. With me as always, we're ready to see game number 2, which will be between Butler University and the University of Maryland.
University of Maryland obviously at that 4-0, so sitting undefeated, looking to continue their streak. Butler a little more, in the 500s with the 2-2, and I mean, in this matchup, we've kind of talked about it too at this point in the season. Undefeated teams at this stage that are undefeated are usually trying to challenge for that playoff berth, right? So I think here for Butler, playing upset would be, or playing spoiler to University of Maryland and taking that game away from them would be a tremendous look for them. So really looking to see Butler University come out of the gate swinging.
They do have a lot to get through though with University of Maryland. Of course, Moosehigh, just a fantastic tank, somebody who is especially strong on Reinhardt, and it will remain to be seen whether or not we see a whole lot of Reinhardt here today between these two squads. But as well for Maryland, something else that Butler is going to have to kind of contend with is Speep, who is just a phenom on the Sojourn especially.
I mean, Sojourn, while we're seeing less of her now because the meta is kind of shifting towards, more dive-heavy situations where she's not nearly as effective as she was in prior metas, still a very strong character, right? So having the ability to just kind of showcase that being a strong Sojourn still can be a big boon to your team, and we'll have to see if that kind of steps through because, again, right now, this meta is a lot about syncing, on those dive heroes, and really, I think, bursting down targets before they can even really react to the incoming damage. So we'll see if that makes itself known here. Certainly for Butler University, a tough task.
It will be, and Oasis will be the first locale that we will see. So ample opportunity to see that kind of dive composition come out, of course, on Gardens or City Center. Yeah, I'll be looking to see how they handle that as we move into those two summits. Of course, you can still play it on University, but it's definitely not quite as common. And so there, too, I'm expecting Maryland to go over to more of a brawl-based composition and try and get behind Moosehigh on the Reinhardt.
Certainly, because we obviously can draw cues from our last game, in the sense that, two of the sub-maps that we saw, more dive-based. Didn't get a chance to see University yet today, so might have that to look forward to.
Yeah, University, definitely a map that I would like to see from both of these squads. Again, just kind of highlighting, I think, the brawl prowess of University of Maryland. But we'll be starting back on... Oh no, this is University. We do get to see University here, so no surprises here in terms of either composition.
2, 1.
All right, the teleport from Pain, do they stick with the Symmetra? No, so it's going to be a lot of burst damage here from Butler. Maryland, not quite as much, though. They do have the sectioning power of the May. Whoa, I mean, a Fire Strike, 100 damage. There's... That's the fight done and dusted right there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, a beautiful May wall as well from Blue. Not really a whole lot that Butler could do right there. Just excellent heads-up play target focus coming out from U of M.
Yeah, Bjorn to be wild is going to get an exit frag, but tragically, it's not going to mean anything in the grand scheme of things. Maryland sharing the damage, actually, across the board. Everyone at that 30+% marker at this stage of the game, so not front-loaded at all. Butler, the same is not the case, as Bubbles will take a lead ult-wise.
Another nice wall there from Lou as well, making life difficult for Bubbles. Immortality Field does have to be used by University of Maryland, so Butler does have an opportunity here. But again, the burst damage, honestly, coming in from Maryland is making it slow going for them to try and gain any kind of purchase on this point. They have backed up Maryland, though, quite significantly. Moosehigh's shield is going down. Point will flip in their favor. Maryland just has to take a breather here for a moment to try and regain some of these important cooldowns. In the meantime, Bjorn putting a lot of pressure on Lou. Here comes a big flurry of ultimates. It will be the Blizzard plus the Am Matrix from Paul. It'll be a pair of picks. Speed coming out on top, though. Again, that flare we have to watch out for on that Sojourn. A lot expended here from Butler. Moosehigh, maybe a little bit of an overcommit there with that Shatter.
I mean, it does generate fairly quickly. Actually, also one of the things is that there's no way Moosehigh stays alive against Pain without using that Shatter. So despite it being a commit of an ultimate, I think it's one that you're willing to trade And I mean, with the benefit of, you know, observer point of view, we know that Butler doesn't have too much to their name. Sure, they're generating a couple of resources, but Maryland not even gonna let them get out of spawn as the overclock comes in.
Yeah, absolutely huge heads up play here from Maryland. And this is kind of what you were talking about earlier with the dive, right? Taking advantage of these players as they're trying to get to point. They're doing that with Brawl at the moment.
It's a very up-tempo style here from Maryland University. Also, I mean, Butler gonna be countering out the sound, or using the sound barrier rather, counter out the Kitsune Rush. It's mirrored in kind. Butler trying to go fast and deal a lot of pressure to force Maryland back.
And once again, they're doing a good job, I think, of just kind of zoning them out. Here comes the Death Blossom. That'll be the finishing touches for Butler to give them control of the point.
That's what I meant, though, in terms of the fact that despite Maryland committing to the Earthshatter, that they don't really mind, is that the pressure that Butler is or is receiving in the neutral game is so very high that they're forced to commit, you know, multiple extra resources to just contest. Now Maryland, they'll walk back in. I mean, you're trying to put it, you know, even as they walk in, I expect to see the Ant Matrix. Fire Strike can one-shot 200 HP heroes now through it, and Maryland still building towards, you know, those closeout utilities. You don't even need it. You want to be wild, taken away before the fight starts.
Yeah, that amplification matrix certainly helping him. Here comes the Annihilation now from Bubbles to be able to deal a lot of damage. So much so that Paul is forced to use Immortality Field. It's not going to last long. Both tanks for both of these squads having a little bit of trouble staying alive. Musai eventually does go down, but the Blizzard on point means that Butler loses their tank as well. Butler will equalize now in the capture percentage, but Speep trying to come back in, seeing if they can turn this in their favor, but they're going to have to contend with Bjorn, who has found one of their supports. This Overclock not netting any kills for them, so that is a huge miss there. Musai going to be able to shatter 3 players. That will be enough to turn it around for Maryland.
Really impressive the Pumpkin holds on to the sound barrier, because they're going to need it to force this final fight. Actually, they're going to... Oh, this is really good heads-up play by Maryland.
Yeah, being able to take out Bubbles right before they go back in. In addition, Kiriko falls too, who had the rush. Nobody's going to be able to touch here, so Maryland with a big aggressive heads-up play will take first map here on Oasis.
A close round, though. Butler, I think, bringing it back. Maryland perhaps surprised by the aggression that Butler showed, and see if they can, you know, isolate some of those fragmented approach that they had on round number 2. But Butler definitely not out of this game yet.
It's certainly not. That was a fantastic showing from, especially considering this is really Maryland firing on all cylinders, right? This is the composition that they want to be running. Moose High on the Reinhardt, Speep on the Sojourn. So Maryland does not have an easy job going forward.
Get into round number 2 here in a moment. Obviously, we now move off of the Brawl map, right? We go into our second stage, going to be Garden. So yeah, Dive will make its appearance.
He's still able to stay on the Sojourn too, so that's definitely something Maryland has to be happy about here. Aggro being contested pretty hotly. Bubbles has to drop down for just a second. A little more damage coming in from Maryland on high, so Butler going to be forced to back up here. Payne trying to escape, but the Tesla Cane of Musai causing a lot of problems.
Yeah, being forced off the high ground early just means, you know, you're not able to deal damage, but you're also, and you don't have map control, and you know, it's easier for your opponent to deal damage to you. You take more damage in that front, so that's going to mean the first capture goes over pretty easily to Maryland.
Ooh, Musai though taking a lot of damage. Payne able to finish them off. A little too aggressive there from Maryland's side. So Butler now in the process of cleaning up the rest of the kills. They want to try and get these as quick as they can. Turtle going to lose out the Lucio duel, but still everything is coming up Butler at the moment. Oh, Lou comes back though. In fact, gets 2 picks before they are taken out. This is not over yet, as Musai is back now with the Winston. Payne forced to use their recall. Musai finishes them off in the end, and a phenomenal hold here from Maryland.
Such a good start for Butler too. Turtle boops Moose High as they're trying to get to the high ground with the jump, waylays them, and it allows Musai to be burnt down, but Maryland do a good job of staggering out their HP until the respawns come back in, even getting eliminations, and now full reset. Maryland's still in control of the objective.
Well, those are coming online for a lot of the players here, but Bubble's not going to be one of them as Lou finds them. Pulse Bomb sent out and be a whiff this time. Pulse there to finish off their doppelganger in Intrepid Cash. Point does flip over to Butler, but the fight going Maryland's way right now. And barring some heroics, that will be the case for this fight.
Yeah, it's going to be a paltry 20%, if that, afforded to Butler. Maryland, I mean, Maryland's biggest issue there is they don't contest the objective, even as they, you know, control the HP pool. And I mean, now for Butler, the thing is, what do you spend, and how do you not overspend?
Right, they start things out with a very aggressive sound barrier. It's gonna force out the Kitsune Rush from Paul Speep with the overclock as well. Bjorn going, Bjorn to be wild, unfortunately dead to be wild at the moment for Butler. Fight's still going on though. Butler hasn't given this up yet. They want to try and turn this around, and they're going to have to now. They have committed this as their final fight. Pumpkin does go down before they're able to use the sound barrier. Lou strikes back though. No supports left here for Butler or Maryland. It's all going to come down to who can do more damage here. Bubbles now trying to get something done with the Primal Rage, falling back to point now to contest it with the rest of their team. But two key players still alive here. Here comes the Blade, going to be shut down immediately though by Musai. Kitsune rush now from Trep to see if they can hold on here. Advantage and now towards Butler as there's several of their members back on the point. Musai going down very low. Fiddle does eventually finish them off, and Intrepid Cash does fall as well though, so now a little more heals online here for Butler, or for Maryland rather. They are still trying to make this happen. Nobody touches, and Maryland will take Oasis.
Butler go for the engage with the sound barrier, and unfortunately there's just no sustain at the end, so Maryland are able to recover in time and extend their lead via, you know, the resources. Pumpkin's so very conservative with those with that ultimate, with the sound barrier on the Lucio, and not mirroring is the sign of confidence in your team's survivability. It's a very risky play, but when it works, it puts you so far ahead of your opposition, and clearly the expectations that the team can survive the aggression that comes in, you know, when your opponent, when Turtle in this case uses a sound barrier, and a lot of credit has to be given for that dominance. So I'll take map number 1 as we move to Kings Row for hybrid next, and I mean, Butler needs to find a way to respond to that breakthrough, because I think this definitely has to favor the team currently in the lead.
Certainly. Yeah, just you know, even out the gates right before we saw what transpired on Oasis. We know again, Musai wants to be playing this right, and Speep so far hasn't been forced off the Soldier. They've been finding a tremendous amount of value on it. So expecting more of the same coming out from them. So the impetus is on Butler to figure out how they want to respond here.
Yeah, and again, you know, something the teams that are at the top end of the standings that they do is they generate ultimates very quickly. Don't use them on that first fight, right? It's the second fight where they're sort of in the neutral game where they've already succeeded, they continue to succeed. And then when their opposition finally generates resources, right, often towards the end of the time bank, or in the case of control at the end, like, you know, its percentage kind of ticks towards that 100% marker, that's when they'll mirror out, you know, ultimates in kind. And it's a tough place to be when your opponent is incredibly frugal, even as you're just struggling to build towards, you know, some of that utility. And I think for Butler here, it's about how can you force your opponent to spend in these fights equal to what you're spending, or even overspend. And that's going to be the critical information to kind of find if they want to try and equalize this series.
Really going to be a tough task for them, as our first sub map, right, when we went to university, a little bit closer fair than what we saw on Gardens. So Maryland looks to be adapting well, even though they were in the lead, even though they have shown to at least be the stronger team at the outset. Pain is on the Torbjorn here. I think maybe anticipating a Tracer coming out. We'll see what Speep swaps over to. Anticipating actually going over to the Bastion. So new look from them here, Lafon.
Keep in mind a Maywall coupled with the Bastion often equals a dead target.
That is exactly what we see to begin things here. Point getting ready to be captured. One tick on the board already for Maryland as that Shield of Bubbles just forced them to have to drop back. Almost completely. Immortality Field used by Turtle as well. There's another Maze Wall to isolate a couple of targets. This time going to be Bjorn to be Wild who falls first. Bubbles shortly thereafter, and Maryland will take the first point.
Keep in mind, Maryland's composition with the Lucio here is straight up in the head-to-head grind battle better. The extra healing that Intrepid Cash can run through between the sort of Kiriko and the Baptiste is not sufficient to simply avoiding damage by getting out with speed. And one of the other things too, it's going to allow Musai to engage at will. And Bubbles simply will not be able to avoid those fights because, again, Lucio can just close the gap so quickly. So, I mean, the work is certainly cut out for the supports of Butler because they'll have to work overtime to heal through damage that they just simply cannot avoid.
Big amplification matrix coming out from Paul. That's just going to melt through the shield, through the HP pull of Bubbles. Musai's shield is down, but not going to matter too much. The wall is there for them to duck behind. Bjorn to be Wild once again with an exit pick, but again, a fight firmly in the hands of Maryland.
And again, another, I mean, cheap fight. Ant Matrix builds so quickly that using it is fairly inconsequential in terms of generating resources. And even as Butler attempts to recontest here, they'll have a ton of tools. They have to deal with the Blizzard. And aside from the Suzu, no real way to avoid this damage coming through.
And here it comes. Both the Suzu and the Blizzard are out. Bull's taking a lot of damage. Immortality Field is there. Pain does get caught in it, but nobody's able to really turn around the corner to try do anything about it. Shatter will not land. High Noon to try and zone things away, but a huge ultimate coming out from Speed will allow Maryland to capture Streets of Kings.
Butler tries to flip the tempo on its head, right? Rushing into the opening that I think they see after the Blizzard. Unfortunately, just groups them into a choke point where the Bastion ultimate simply cannot miss. I mean, now it's the third phase. Yeah, Matrix entirely denied as Maryland just leaves. With 5 minutes, you're okay, taking away 10 seconds and completely bankrupting Butler. And now Maryland, they'll be able to just, again, that Ant Matrix walk back in, configuration through, amount of damage that Maryland will be able to do, tremendous.
Exactly. Once again with the May wall, Bubbles just getting caught out. Musai now with a Shatter as well for the next fight, and this is kind of exactly what we were hoping wouldn't happen, right? Butler overspending so many ultimates and not necessarily not even getting a fight win out of them this time. So Maryland just free to continue to push.
I mean, now the Shatter here, essentially inevitable. Bubbles is going to have to really prevent, just keep this shield in check, which just opens up Speep and Lou to damage as much as they want. And then once the shield goes down, just walk past it and there's a free Shatter.
Yeah, Bubbles is going to be the one who's knocked to the ground from that Shatter. Immortality Field does keep everybody alive. It's going to be a brief backup from Maryland, but only for a moment as they just try to see how much more they can kind of bleed out from Butler here. Pain does have the Death Blossom, so that is the one win condition that Butler is kind of resting their hopes on, at least for the most part. Actually, a couple more coming in now. Speed, though, again with the ultimate. Here comes the Amplification Matrix. Trying to catch off another player. Again, it is a Musai. This time they're going to be the one that falls. Blizzard coming in from Blue to see if they can turn this back around. Just about everybody going to be caught in it. Turtle, the only one remaining. They're not going to be alive for too long. So a very healthy time bank for Maryland.
The power of the Blizzard when it lands is very scary. See, Butler not even able to use 2 of their big damage dealing resources there. And Maryland will complete all 3 points. 3 minutes on the time bank too. So, I mean, at this stage, Butler can't just... it's not just a case of having to complete the map. They have to do so with time remaining. frankly, Maryland felt like they were in control that entire time. And if anything, Maryland perhaps showing a little too much respect for what Butler had at the very end there. Pumpkin electing not to use the sound barrier for quite some time. So,
yeah. Unfortunate there for Butler. And again, I don't think we necessarily saw the changes we were hoping to come out from them. And Maryland really showed just a tremendous, what's the word I'm looking for? A tremendous understanding of this brawl composition and the way it works, right? Just the Maywall with the Bastion over and over again. So little that Butler could do there.
oh, we'll have to find a solution here. Perhaps an aerial threat on this defense or on this offensive side. No hit scan to be found for Maryland.
5, 4, 3,
I'm of course
1.
sort of putting comps that Butler should probably not be running. It's tough to make them work, but
yeah,
a lot of spam damage here on Butler's side.
It certainly is. I'll be curious to see if they don't take this point on the first push, if we do see swap over to something a little more aerial based. But right now, Immortality Field has been taken out. Lou going down very, very low. They will be able to get healed up. So kudos to the backline of Maryland for making that happen. They will have to give up one tick, though, to Butler for that. In fact, going to be 2. Wall does come out this time, not quite able to isolate Bubbles how they wanted to, so Lou overcommits just a little bit and gonna pay for it with their lives. They're gonna have to come back here and touch. No, Maryland decides to just give up the point, see if maybe they can kite away enough to be able to get something done.
Sweep dies at perhaps the most opportune place of all time in the martyrdom, gets 2 eliminations on the as people try and catch the straggling members of Maryland. Maryland also don't give up a fight or don't take a fight at all. They just kind of give up the objective rather toothlessly.
Yeah, that charge out from Moose High, it definitely took me by surprise, but it seems to have honestly been the right move. They knew that fight wasn't going to where. Big Amp Matrix Fire Strike comes in, removes pain from the equation. The rest of Butler backing up because they're not going to lose too terribly much time just to wait for their 5th member.
Immediately really a kiting from Butler though on their offense here. With the Lucio, it's easier to just get in quicker.
Getting in quicker is exactly what Bubbles is doing right now. Shatter gonna land though. Just pause for them for a moment. Moosai goes low, but Bubbles a little bit lower. Both teams kind of disengaging for the moment, but Butler gets a little bit of card progress for it. Moosai eating a lot of damage as they threw out that fire strike. Mortality Field is out, but Speed able to wait long enough before using that tire to make sure it is not there to keep anyone alive. Bubbles does find an exit pick. Actually going ahead and committing the annihilation as well. Gets a couple for it, but Maryland holds strong.
It's a play that actually almost works, but for Butler, the problem is that one player dies literally right as the annihilation is activated, and maybe if that player had been able to stay alive, it would have traded back a little bit more evenly. Unfortunately, Maryland keep themselves up. Speep's gonna get off the Junkrat now over to a hit scan. So Bjorky Wild, mid-range is your friend. I don't think Speep wants to play there.
No, I'm sure they do not. You don't want to play there. You don't want to play in a blizzard either. Lou throws it out, but Butler is able to kite away from it. Nobody getting caught, so that frees them up to move pretty aggressively here and continue to push the part forward. They're making really good time as well.
Nice couple of shots there from Bjorky Wild. Actually, that's going to be the checkpoint just earned. I don't think there's anyone who really contest. Actually, Moosai goes over to the Wrecking Ball, so they'll get there.
Yeah, Pumpkin gonna go ahead and use the sound barrier too to try and bleed off more time on the clock. Pain spawns with a Riptire as those shields are going down. Speep finds himself off the map. Riptire does land, just a couple meters left to go here, but this point firmly in the hands of Butler. Oh, big Immortality Field though. And the Amp Matrix, they're going to try and keep them alive. Pumpkin does find a pick as well onto Pain. So Maryland not letting go of this by any stretch of the imagination. Gonna back off just a little bit here, but it's still being contested by Musai on the wrecking ball. Nobody has really turned their attention to him just yet from Butler, so they've got a tremendous amount of shields, and because they sustained so long, the rest of the team gets back and holds.
I think that was an instance of Butler perhaps trying to force the objective. They maybe went a little too far forward, and Pumpkin able to duel out the hit scan. Takes them down, and when the backline is able to take the DPS away, just buys so much more space, and the whole time that meant that they weren't dealing with the tank, so the capture point didn't come through. Also, Speed makes some changes.
And that is absolutely massive. Musai coming in with the minefield. I mean, they built that in one fight, Lafon.
Yeah, I mean, the arming time there for the minefield just tragically is a little too fast, so the roll through comes in now. I mean, a minute 30, but once looked like a really good time bank for Butler, sort of disappeared. Also, Maryland gonna make some switches before Butler returns to the fight. This should still be an opportunity for Butler, though, right? I mean, you kind of have to expect the Kitsune Rush and the Annihilation at the very least to be committed here.
And very quickly as well, especially now that Bubble's shield has gone down, think ideally, yep, they're going to want to go into the Nemesis form, get as much shields and as much extra health as they can out of that. Immortality Field pulled out as well, so as soon as that's down, yep, we do see the Annihilation used by Bubbles. Amplification Matrix from Paul and the Sound Barrier from Maryland to keep everyone alive. Blizzard shutting things down as well. So Maryland able to sustain through all of that incoming damage with some great utilization of their ults.
Yeah, it just took a little too long to get the Kitsune Rush and the Annihilation in play, and then once that happened, Maryland, who were close to resource at the start of the fight, get those resources. And Lou has made this Blizzard look game-winning fight after fight. And I mean, now Butler 24 seconds. No matter what happens, the likelihood of them, even if they were to have sort of miracle fights here, they're not going to have time remaining, even if they capture all three objectives. That is not a foregone conclusion. Keep in mind, Shatter here from Moose High, right at the ready.
It's going to be a rotation around the back from Bubbles, but the Shatter does lay them down. 3 drop immediately. Maryland will make it 2-0 at Kings Row.
That Shatter, I mean, it was game winning. It just stuns the Sound Barrier. It denies the other ultimate that Butler had available. And hey, now we are sitting at match point with Maryland 1 map away from taking this 3-0.
Once again, before we get there, we are going to go to a short break, so don't go anywhere. We will be back soon. Once again, Dorado will be our next destination. Map 3 on its way. University of Maryland up 2-0 at the moment over Butler University. Juggle Guide here once again alongside LaFon, and Maryland just looked absolutely dominant on Kings Row the last showing.
Yeah, I mean, clearly showcasing the strength of their composition. I think understanding the fight rotations very well, which isn't something we could say, for certain every time when teams play this brawl style. So Maryland, a team that kind of plays around that to great effect. And I think the problem is it's predictable what they're going to do in terms of the fight setup. Just because you can predict something does not mean you can counter it. And I think that's where the struggle lay for Butler University in that last map, right? Obviously, the Maywall is going to come through. There's going to be a transformation on the Bastion, and you're going to take a ton of damage. But knowing it's going to happen is a sight different than stopping it. And tragically, they weren't able to do so on map number 2. We move, of course, to Dorado for map 3, as you highlighted, and it's going to be a little bit different now because you don't have as much low ground to work with. So I doubt we see that the Reinhardt composition rather be exclusively run here. Nonetheless, the win conditions don't necessarily get more obscure. The counters to them still haven't gotten any easier, though.
That's true, and even while you are potentially pulling Moose High off the Reinhardt, they are a very versatile tank player. So I don't think this is necessarily going to just by that make this easy, done and dusted, whatever for Butler. They're still going to have to, I think, adapt their playstyle, right? They're going to have to make sure again that they're not overspending ultimates, things like that. These are improvements I think that they need to make regardless of the composition that we're going to see if they hope to take a map away from Maryland here on Dorado.
Maryland looking to make a substitute here, I believe. Multiple substitutes, actually.
Yeah.
Novazor, Tony, and and I believe Paul actually as well.
I think Paul too. I think you're right. Yeah.
As a substitute. Paul did play earlier in the round. If I remember correctly, Paul was on map number 1, substitute for map number 2, and then comes back in here. Nonetheless, Tony and Novazor are the bigger highlights here as they're coming in for the first time.
3, 2, 1.
We're again seeing the Doomfist come out too, which is definitely an interesting look. It can certainly work, but it's definitely not the first pick, I think, on everybody's mind. It's just going in together a little bit of information, but Speed getting dove hard in the back line. Bubbles, their sights set firmly on that Widowmaker, but having a little bit of tough time disengaging. So Maryland's going to have an opportunity now to get the card forward a little bit. And we also see the swap from Speed.
A Widow into a Wrecking Ball is very tough, and couple that with a Genji Tracer, the likelihood of you just getting exploded is quite high. Paul finds that out the hard way.
That they do. It's going to be a trade, though, as Bjorn does go down. Things actually going in Maryland's favor. Novazor goes down very low, but they're able to kite back to their team. Now, Tony at the head of the charge here for Maryland.
Pumpkin does so much damage there on the Ana and then gets the Mega Health Pack that it buys time for Speed to show up on the flank and take down the Wrecking Ball. So, I mean, Maryland now are going to be able to just walk to the choke point here and hold out Butler as they attempt to recontest.
Running the Brig Zen now as well for Butler, which is a very tough composition to run. It's incredibly effective if you can pull it off right. So I think that's going to be the big question here is, can Butler execute on this composition? At the moment with Turtle going down, that's a big part of it gone. Speed actually finding 3 picks. Going to use the reload, the Deadeye reload in order to continue their trouncing.
That was just a really nice play by Speed. I think even getting the pocket there, or getting the healing throughput from their team, and then just hitting your shots on Cassidy, right? Tony doing a little 2-step to dodge the bullets here from Speed.
Tony actually taking a bit of damage, forced to back away. In the meantime, though, Turtle has found Paul. So definitely an opportunity here for Butler to capitalize on. Bjorn, to be wild, waste no time doing that. Novazor forced out on their utility left. So there's going to be a quick regroup here from Maryland.
And Tony gets displaced by the Orisa with the Javelin, which has been a switch that Bubbles has now made.
And definitely going to give them a lot more staying power on point. As well with this high ground position, it's going to make it difficult for Tony and the rest of the squad to really kind of get value up here. Going to be a Nano Blade now from Novazor, able to get 1, but because of all the CC, that will be all they find. Bubbles eventually able to get that final blow. Tony now looking for value. Pain chased away. Sweep does find a blow there as well. It's still in a decent position, but Bubbles going down very low, and Biotic Grenade does keep them alive. In fact, they're even going to invest the Nano. And honestly, to great effect as now Speed is in a very difficult position. Push back out towards Butler's team, so great heads up positioning play right there. But Paul eventually going to be able to get the finishing blow onto Bubbles. And now, with the Transcendence coming out, Maryland has successfly turned this fight around.
Maryland invests in that fight. I mean, when they recognize that Butler is willing to kind of meet them with those kind of mirror responses, it unleashes them to spend to move forward, right? Because they're no longer getting, it's no longer just an overcommit. It's just a straight up investment. And Butler, they're gonna give him a ton of ground as a result.
A rally gonna be used now by Butler to push out of this high ground, taking it away completely from Maryland. Big pick onto Pumpkin that allows Bjorn to be able to feel free to use that to use the Deadeye. So once again, we're gonna see Maryland kite back pretty quickly.
That was a bit of an expensive fight though for Butler. Hey, right? That's the rally. And I mean, the rally and the nano boost are the ones you're kind of looking at most in that situation. Also, critically, this Terror Surge is somewhat, replaceable because of all the mobility that Maryland has.
And it's going to be difficult to dive all the way into the backline to try and find a Zen with it or something like that. So, I'm anticipating that happening. Big pick early on. Biotic Grenade lands as well. Paul finishing things up. Here comes the Terror Surge from Bubbles. Not going to be able to get anything for it. Now Brig being pummeled in the backline by Tony. They're going to use the Biotic Grenade to try and keep them alive and dissuade Tony from doing it, but he just uses his get out of jail free card. Now able to push forward once again. Everybody on Butler just backing up and regrouping for third.
Time was stolen away though by Butler here. As it was taken down to 1.5 minutes, so it'll be doubled into the third stage.
Ooh.
No one can hide.
Big
Nice
shots
little
coming
shield
out
there from Intrepid Cash, actually, to deny that headshot from the Widow.
And I think they were aware of it after that pick on a Bjorn. Making sure to keep their head out of the way. Novazor here with a blade. Now they're going to be committed onto Pain to see if they can turn things around. Not going to be enough to get the job done, though. Novazor does eventually fall, but Maryland's still in the driver's seat here, just now getting Bubbles back out. And as soon as they turned that corner, they're chugged down to next to nothing.
I mean, Novazor getting the double kill on that blade is actually pretty big because it denies, as you said, the nano boost's value. And even as they're taken out, it doesn't matter because their team still holds so much space on the map. Look at a very long rotation that Bjorn to be Wild has to take just to try and dislodge his Widowmaker. And all this attention is attention that is not being spent on the front line.
Exactly. They don't even get the pick onto Speep, so kudos for them for being able to just stay up there. Bjorn does eventually go back and find that pick. Novazor now dives in to see if they can get something else on the back of the pick onto Bjorn. Turtle is sleeping, so they're going to be picked off quickly by Tony, even despite those extra shields coming in from their rally from a Intrepid Cast. Bubbles once again using the Terror Surge, chunks everybody down pretty low, gets one pick onto Novazor. Here comes the Transcendence though from Ball to keep them alive. Pumpkin back in it now. Zor nowhere to be found. A big sleep as well onto Bjorn. Pain going down low. Pumpkin taken out too. Bubbles does fall. It's a 1-for-1 trade here.
All this time though, Tony's taking so much space up front that it's just Butler in their spawn. They can't really leave here, and now the Heart's like at the final moments.
Deadeye comes out from Bjorn to be a Wild. Not going to find anything this time. Pain still holding on to the overclock. They're getting hit. They're getting pummeled. Beautiful shot onto Speed. Make it 2 a second onto Paul. If they are able to hold here, it's going to be on the back of Pain, but they are down. Now Bubbles onto the Wrecking Ball. See if they can sustain here. Novazor forced to back up.
I mean, the Nano's coming into play here. Gonna try and farm Novazor up to a blade. This is gonna be a final push with Maryland going for that damage throughput. Last 30 seconds of the map, though.
Yeah, Intrepid definitely needs to get this rally online, but it is quite a ways away. Novazor being poked. Here comes the Nano. That's going to be the blade. 2 immediately. Crucially, Intrepid who's not going to have enough time to get that rally up and going. So the Nano boost committed to Bubbles. Going to eat a Biotic Grenade as well. And with that Discord Orb on them too, they do not last long. Last moment attempt here to contest. We do get one touch in that of Pain. Here comes Intrepid now with a rally. I don't think it's going to be enough though to really keep them alive. They have survived longer than I was expecting. Again, that Discord Orb just doing a tremendous amount of work here from Paul, allowing Maryland to focus everybody down, get the kills. Now it's just the Wrecking Ball standing on point. Pain tries to dash in, but will not, and Maryland finishes an OT.
Still, Butler able to get the overtime timer, right? So they do wither away the time bank of Maryland. And now an opportunity exists, right? This is not unwinnable here for Butler University. Very much doable for them as they were able to consistently stymie Maryland's attack runs, and realistically was only an ult dump that allowed Maryland to puncture the defenses of their opponent. So really a strong offense is all Butler needs to at least give themselves an opportunity to come back in this series.
And it has to be now too. They are down 2-0. So nothing short of full completing this map is going to keep them in this serious, but we saw a lot of good stuff coming out there from Butler. I love the Wrecking Ball swap at the end as well. Just that extra sustain, that extra time on point, really pushing Maryland into overtime was fantastic.
I like this hover from Butler in terms of the Echo Mercy. Turtle, though, man, this is such a risky play for Turtle. If you stick with it, right, there's just not a lot of peel for the Zen, and being forced to kind of anchor that backline for Discord Orb and damage is gonna be a tough thing to do for sure.
Especially with Speep on the Widow and Zen having such a big head, Novazor and Tony diving them. I mean, they seem to get forced off of the Zen pretty early on, going instead over to the Ana, which I think got them a lot more value in the end. They just needed that extra bit of survivability. And speaking of survivability, that was definitely what Bubbles needed right there. They're just gonna wait for the respawn.
I'm surprised you're running a Winston here with this backline. Winston very squishy when you don't really have a healer with you, and there's no one on Butler that can provide the burst healing to kind of run through a Winston. You normally expect to see a Wrecking Ball here, maybe even Doomfist. Yeah, Bubbles is just dead again, by the way. Like, even though like, they're out of the fight while this is happening.
Exactly. So that means Speep isn't taking any pressure. They're just available to kind of free fire, find the value they want. But Paul does go down. Rez is going to come in. But again, Turtle, like you said, it's just going to be so hard for them to try and stay alive. And the Rez isn't there to bring them back now. Going to see Tony back up to the high ground. In the meantime, Bubbles pressuring down. Novazor beyond to be wild. Does he eventually finish them off as well? So Butler has a good start here. And honestly, we're just, at this point, getting a lot of staggers coming in from Maryland.
Speep at range takes down both DPS, and the Rez isn't going to be there.
Wow.
This just undoes all that progress that Butler was trying to do.
Rest does come back online just in time to pick them back up. So big nano boost coming in. Turtle, no hope for them to stay alive in that situation. Novazor continuing with the pressure on. I had a grenade forcing Bubbles back, and again with that Discord orb on them, just no way for them to stay alive.
No one can hide from my sight.
Keep in mind, this has been mostly the neutral game for Maryland. Sure, the nano boost was committed, but it's been tough. Yeah, Bubbles will now make a switch over to Wrecking Ball. Definitely takes a lot of the pressure off of the backline here. You're not worried about your tank nearly as much as a Winston, but does it solve the problems that Butler are running into? Do you have more damage now? Not with Pain gone. No, not like this.
Not like this, indeed. They're gonna use the Valk as well. Is unfortunate for them moving into the next fight. Pain is going to make the swap onto Tracer now as well.
So now we're down to the last 123 of the map, and no closer to this first checkpoint. Or Butler.
And Speed has just been so free to kind of do what they want. Even with Bubbles swapping over to the Wrecking Ball, it didn't seem like a lot of pressure was put onto them either. But some of that pressure coming in now to the back line. Ooh. Big biotic grenade, though, and Bubbles with just no real good disengage options. It just eats all that damage. So, I mean, once again, Butler has to reset.
Yeah, it's a punch to stun you out of your grapple. The Discord orb for the damage throughput. I mean, if asleep, even if that doesn't come through. And the anti-nates, you can't be healed. It's just... It's a no-win situation for the tank here. There's not really much you can do. And that's a Transcendence forced for nothing. Now Novazor entirely free to blade.
And here it comes right off the back of that Transcendence, falling down. 20 seconds left to go here. This was Butler's last great opportunity to make something happen here. It's going to have to be a quick regroup. Bubbles is going to have to be responsible for touching here.
Small blessings is that the Transcendence was used despite Paul not really being in that much danger. So Bjorn to be wild should have something. A window.
Discord orb is on them, so they've taken a lot of damage, but they are able to get 3 kills. Tony strikes back with a pair, though, so there's only a 1-player advantage here for Butler. Bubbles is about to get this minefield online, so they may have to use it just to ensure that they cap this point and see second.
Bubbles putting the mines at the choke would be a big way to kind of close this one out. Tony gets back in. This is...
Ooh,
Okay.
They do get the kill. Yeah,
That was
late,
so scary.
late mines, but yeah.
Yeah, that was so scary. If those mines were even a second later, this would be a very different conversation. This, of course, is not a win for Butler, merely a state of execution in this map.
I think the Wrecking Ball pick definitely playing out well here for Butler. Speed going down too with the sights means that Butler doesn't have to worry about it as they kind of round this first corner here in the second phase.
Novazor play with fire a little bit. Ash's safety.
And both tanks going in pretty hard, but nice sleep dart. Gonna stop Bubbles in their track. And in the meantime, a couple picks coming in for Maryland. Nano Boost is committed to Tony as well. So the cleanup will be swift and it will be severe.
And all it cost was Paul's life, so that's not really much of a trade there. Especially as it's quickly avenged. Bjorn to be Wild is taken out very late. And the supports can't even walk out of spawn without having to be very careful.
Ooh. Misstep from Tony. It happens with all the dive tanks from time to time. Now with the high ground under the control of Butler, they should be able to stage a pretty decent dive here. Speed going down too means, again, just so much pressure has been relieved and going to allow Butler to push forward. But with a pick onto Turtle, things aren't necessarily guaranteed to be good here. And now Paul coming up with one onto Bubbles as well. That is your main initiation tool gone for Butler. So Maryland going to take advantage of this as quick as they can, settling things with a blade from Novazor.
Novazor getting a couple of 360s in with that blade, those blade slashes, just trying to get coverage of the area. And yeah, down to the last 20 seconds here. This time around, I do not believe the blade is going to be free from Bjorn to be Wild. Paul keeping that Transcendence running, or available at the very least.
A lot of pressure being put onto Paul, though. Yeah, Bubbles is able to get it out. It will cost them quite a bit of their health, though. Speep, in the meantime, has found a pick. Beyond to be Wild, that's going to be their first target, but they're taken out before the blade comes online. Kitsune Rush is here from Butler. We have reached OT, but everything at the moment coming up Maryland until Bane able to actually turn it around. And Pumpkin not to be found either. Just one player left trying to contest things on cart for Maryland. Novazor trying to get back into the fight, or rather Speep with the Hanzo. They're taking a lot of damage, forced to back away just a little bit. Paul is back into the fight onto that high ground, but being primaled away as well. That Discord Orb not going to get quite as much done as they would have hoped. Now Tony diving back in, does find Turtle. That's big. The blade coming out now from Bjorn to be Wild, forced to use it just to insert themselves an opportunity to see third.
Yeah, a minute and a half now. Added once more. Oh, what a fadeaway by Speed there.
Wow.
That is a tough shot to make under pressure. And I'll take one more out, so Butler don't get to stage their Tracer on the poke for, to kind of try and deny Paul any forward pressure. That's a Suzu force because they have to keep the Hanzo alive. They can't risk Novazor coming in for the elimination on that slept target.
Oh, massive sleep onto a nano boosted Tony from a trap. They're able to commit their own nano over the bubble, but in the meantime, Speep still managing to get work done here for Maryland. 45 seconds left to go, and Maryland with a bit of an advantage. Bubbles taking a lot of poke as well, and that Discord Orb still being a thorn in their side.
Speep is, put some pretty crazy shots down off the climb up here on the Hanzo.
Ooh. The pick onto Intrepid Cash as well. Butler, I think he needed to disengage there. Maryland calling them a bit on their greediness, on their over-aggression. It's going to be a tough final fight.
Maryland, they have the bag. Now they just need not to fumble it. Transcendence and Blade. You don't really see a pathway in for Butler here on what is likely to be the final fight.
Here comes the blade now from Novazor. Bubbles had to use their jump to get in just to touch the point to keep it alive. 2 picks already. This will be Maryland coming away with a victory here on Dorado, securing themselves a 3-0 and continuing to post a perfect record here in the NACE Star League.
Tremendous stuff. Butler, they had some meaningful engagements. They had some meaningful fights, and they definitely had a never say die attitude. But at the end, it was Maryland who comes out on top with the 3-0, the shutout in map score, and continue their flawless record over league play in the regular season. So a lot of credit to University of Maryland as they'll go 1-2-3 to shut out their opponent.
We're going to throw to a short break once again. Right after that, an interview and then game number 3. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back soon.